Welcome to Physics Meal. Today on Physics Meal, we are still looking at the concept of measurement. We are on part 3 of the concept of measurement. And in this part, we'll be looking at how to find dimensions and units of derived quantities. Do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel and also follow us on Facebook. Like our videos, leave a comment for us, and also share our videos. All right, let's begin. Now, this is one of the important areas in the study of measurement. How we can use fundamental quantities to find the dimensions and units of what? The derived quantities. So we say, to find dimensions and units of derived quantities, we take these steps. So we have about 5 steps that we are going to take in order to find the what? The dimensions and what? And units of derived quantities. So before we start looking at this step, we have to pick a question so that as we look at any of the steps, we will apply it to the question on the board. So we are asked to find the dimensions and units of the following quantities: area, volume, and the word density. So let's see how we'll do this. The first one is area. Okay, the first one is area. So they said if we want to find dimensions and units of a derived quantities, these are the steps we are going to take. So let's start taking the step. Take note of the quantity. So the quantity in question here is area. Okay, we're taking notes. Write the formula for finding the quantity and ensure that it is the subject of the word of the formula. So how do we find area? We have so many ways of finding area, but I'm going to use that of area of a rectangle, where we have length times width. Okay, length times width. That's area of what? Of a rectangle. So length times width. They say write the formula for finding the quantity and ensure that it is the subject of formula. In this formula now, area is the subject because it's standing alone while the rest of the quantities are on the other side. No quantity is standing with area. It's on its own, so it's the subject. So it's the subject of formula. If in a situation you are trying to make to find the dimensions and units of a derived quantity, and you write the formula for finding that derived quantity, and in that formula that derived quantity is not the subject of formula, the first thing you need to do is to make that quantity the subject of formula. But in this case, area already is the subject of formula, so we don't need to make it the subject of formula. Okay, so we now say write all other quantities in terms of the dimensions of the fundamental quantities. So other quantities we have here are length and width. So let's write them in terms of the dimensions of the fundamental quantities. Now length is fundamental, we know that. And if you go back to our previous video, we gave a table containing the dimensions and the units of fundamental quantities. And in that table we say that the dimension of length is L. So we'll write length as L times width. Width is not on that table, but in our first video, after describing what we mean by fundamental quantities, we say that there are other forms of length, and width is one of them. We say width, breadth, height, depth, thickness, distance, displacement, that all these are what? Length. And because of that, they will have the same dimension as what? Length. So since we have already established that width is also length, that means the dimension of width will also be what? L. So when length multiplies length, because they now say simplify to obtain the dimension. So length times length will give me length raised to power 2. This is now the dimension of what? Of area. That's the dimension. We have simplified. How do we get the units? The last step, replace the dimensions by the appropriate unit to find the word unit. So we'll go back. What is the unit of length? They say replace the dimension using the appropriate unit. Now length, the unit is meter, so we are going to use meter to replace the dimension. We'll replace the dimension L by the unit M, and this length is squared, so the unit should also be squared. So this is the unit of what? Unit of area. And that's why when we do calculation in mathematics, we are asked to find area. If you find area, we usually say maybe you find area as 150 meters. It's 150 is 150 meters square, 150 centimeters square, because area is in the square of length because of this. Okay, that's the first one. We still apply the same approach for volume. That's the quantity we have taken note of, volume. And how do we find volume? What's the area of the unit of volume? That's the formula for finding volume, rather. Write the formula for finding the quantity. So volume is length times breadth times height. That's volume. There are so many formula for finding volume, but we chose that of a cuboid. Yes, we chose that of a cuboid. Even if you use any of the formula, you will still arrive at the same word, dimension. So volume is length times breadth times height. So write all other quantities in terms of the dimensions of the fundamental word quantity. Okay, write all other quantities. Now the dimension of length is what? L. Now we have also established that breadth is length and height is also length. That's why it's important to watch the first video on dimension. So it means the dimension of breadth will be length and the dimension of height will also be L. And when L multiplies L multiply L, we're going to have L raised to power 3. This is the word dimension of what? Volume. So if I want to now get the word, if I want to get the unit according to our step, simplify to obtain the dimension, we have done that. To get the unit, replace the dimensions by the appropriate unit to find the word unit. So if we replace, length is measured in meters, that's the unit. So we use the meter to replace the dimension L, and that's meter cubed. So this is the unit of what? Of volume. So you see, it's just very simple. I know that what is going on in your mind is now is, how do I know this formula? I know that's the only challenge you have in your mind. But in the course of studying physics, you begin to master this formula. But whenever I'm going to give you a question, I'm going to give you the formula for that quantity if you are a beginner. But if you are not a beginner, whenever you want to find dimension of any quantity, you know actually the formula of the quantity. Yes, you're supposed to know. When you do various topics in physics, you will know the formula of the quantity you are trying to find its dimension. So the last one is density. We take note of density. And then we write the formula for finding density. Density is defined as mass over volume. Mass over volume. So that's the formula. And density is the subject of the formula here. So the next step, write all other quantities in terms of the dimensions of the fundamental word quantity. So we have mass. What's the dimension of mass? Capital M is on our in that table that we gave in the second video in part 2 of measurement. So dimension, write every other thing in terms of the dimensions of the fundamental quantities. So mass is M. Volume, we have just found the dimension of volume as length raised to power 3. So we'll put down length raised to power 3. So this is the dimension of density, length to power 3. Now this dimension, I can write it in 2 other forms. This can be written like this, M per length cube. And this can also be written as what? M L raised to power minus 3. So this is the dimension of density. So this are the same. All I applied here is the concept of indices, negative power in indices. So once you see this line, that is this line. But once this line is no longer there, it means you need to introduce a negative sign to the power there. All right. So that's the dimension. So the last now is the what? The unit. What is the unit of density? Now we replace the dimensions by the appropriate unit. Mass What is the unit of mass? Is kilogram. The unit of length cube is this. That's the volume, meter cube. Or I can write it kilogram per meter cube or kilogram per meter cube. That's our unit. So the unit of density is kilogram per meter cube. That's the unit of density. Wow. You see, this is very simple and very simple. All right. Before we give you a takeaway questions that you are going to solve, we are still going to do more examples on this. This is just example 1. But that more example will come in our next video. Yeah, this is a meal. We cannot overfeed you. Yeah, so that you not become obese. We don't want you to suffer obesity. Our meal will be coming as a meal so that it can digest properly. Yeah, we don't want you to get to a point that you start vomiting. Yeah. All right. So in our next class, we're going to solve more problems on how to derive the units and dimensions of derived quantities. Till then, keep enjoying yourself on all our platforms. Go to TikTok and look for Engineer Ike. I'm on TikTok teaching physics, chemistry, maths. Yeah, I'm there. I'm on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook, and then we are on YouTube also. Till I come your way next time, remain blessed. I'm still your brother and your friend, Engineer Ike. Okay, true. Thank you.